Man, I do like this music that we got on the before the show. Like it's rap music, which I love rap music. We used to have a 90s show where it was just like 90s music, but I can get down with some rap too. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hey, Linnell.
Listening to Media Lex Radio, WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
The views expressed on this
Linnell, long time no see. It's really good to see you online.
Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
How you been doing? We need to get together.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome everybody to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. To listen to us from anywhere in the entire world, you can also stream the show from the station website at MediaLex.us. I am broadcasting from the WLXU studios here at MediaLex on North Limestone. It is February the 26th, 2026. So much to get to, folks. That State of the Union address was as long as it was. There was plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about that in the show. There is so much to get to, so much to get started with. And I want to get started reading an article that I read. And this particular article really just kind of stopped me in my tracks because it talked about some of the most unhygienic things others do on an everyday basis. Now, these particular things that I read in this article, I was sitting here thinking that, my goodness, we as human beings in society, we are doing these things all of the time. And this article just got me fascinated. So I wanted to share with you some of the extremely unhygienic things that people do on an everyday basis. Now, I'm all about cleanliness. I have kind of an OCD problem with cleanliness, and it's partly because of the way I was raised. I mean, my mom used to go behind me and pick up lint that would fall off of my socks in the floor. That's how clean she used to keep the house. And it just was ingrained in me to always be hygienic. And after reading this article, it just reminded me how disgusting we really are as a society every single day, because we do things without even realizing how disgusting it is. And according to this article, these are the extremely unhygienic things that others do on an everyday basis. Number one, blowing out candles on a birthday cake. Yes, I get it. It's a celebratory moment, but think about what you're doing, folks. When you blow out candles on a birthday cake that everybody is getting ready to eat, you are spitting on the cake before you eat them, because sometimes people don't have a clean blow and spit goes everywhere. So it's something, especially at a kid's birthday party. They don't know how to blow a candle out to save their lives. So spit goes everywhere, and then we just kind of dive in and eat the cake. Another extremely unhygienic thing that people do every day, well, maybe not every day, but just getting into a public hot tub, especially when people are drinking. I mean, do you really think people sit in a hot tub 15, 20, 25 minutes drinking alcohol without having to pee? That's because they're probably peeing in the hot tub, and we're just sitting there in hot water and pee. Using your phone. And when I say using your phone every day, think about where all you put your phone on an everyday basis. You put your phone down on a table. You put your phone on a public table. You put your phone maybe down in the bathroom. And then you hold your phone up to your face. We never really sanitize our phones, maybe every now and then, but very rarely are we sanitizing the phone. So think about where you put your phone and then how close you put your phone up to your face. That is a very unsanitary thing that we do. Another thing is using public restrooms and putting things on the floor. I don't understand why guys don't really have to worry about that much, because we don't really carry purses or anything like that. But a lot of the times when women go to the bathroom, I just assume when they're going to a public restroom that they set their purse down on the floor. I could think of 1,000 other places that you could set your purse besides the floor. Maybe start with your lap, perhaps. Coughing directly into your hand is another thing that we do every single day that's very unsanitary. It's probably the worst place you could possibly cough, since you spend all day touching things with your hands, spreading germs everywhere. Licking your fingers while counting money. Licking your fingers in general, I hate finger lickers. I cannot stand when I see people cook and then they lick their finger when they get something on it. That's disgusting. You want me not to eat after you? Let me see you lick your fingers. But some people lick their fingers when they're trying to scan through papers. But some people will lick their fingers when they are counting money. They'll lick their finger and then go to the next dollar, lick their finger and go to the next dollar. Money, arguably, is one of the grossest things that we have circulating in our country because of how many hands the dollar bills have been into. So when we are touching the money and then licking our fingers after touching the money, we're just licking all of the germs that were on the dollar. Using your toothbrush, this article says, using your toothbrush for too long without replacing it. I try to replace my toothbrush at least once a month. It probably should be more than that. But yes, people sometimes will have a toothbrush for years without ever changing it. And if you leave your toothbrush around for too long, folks, think about the fecal matter that is in a bathroom. If you keep your toothbrush in a bathroom, if you don't have no cover on it, it's just collecting all of that fecal matter circulating in your bathroom onto your toothbrush. So it is a very unsanitary thing. And if you're just joined us, we're talking about the extremely unhygienic things others do on an everyday basis. It says here, wearing shoes inside of your house. A lot of people don't think about this, But think about what all is on the bottom of your feet and what you're tracking in on your house. I was just in the bathroom. There was pee everywhere, all over the floor. My shoes are really sticky right now because of the pee that is on the bottom of my shoe. So the last place that I would want to walk is in my living room with my shoes on, because that is the pee coming from the bathroom floor onto my living room floor. And when people walk in to a house with their shoes on, you are tracking in everything into your living space that was meant to be outside or in a dirty restroom. It says here another very unsanitary thing that we do every day is pressing buttons on an elevator with the tips of our fingers. I get it. Sometimes it's just kind of habit to press things with our fingertips. That's how we press things. But again, you could be mindful of that. Your fingers, you're touching your face a lot most of the time. It's an easy way to spread germs. Maybe use your knuckles to touch the buttons on the elevator. It says here in the article, people who let cats walk all over their kitchen countertops. You got to remember that these cats presumably use a litter box and their feet are walking all over pee and poop. Not to mention their butts are also on the counter. So it could be pretty disgusting pretty quick. And you always see just cat hair flying off of cats in kitchens. Grosses me out. That's why I'm not a big potluck eater at work. You never know what people's houses look like. And, I would say if you've seen, there could be some delicious looking food at a potluck. But if you've seen what kitchen that food was cooked in, you would probably change your mind. Biting your fingernails is another one. Yes, if you look at your fingernails right now, like I'm looking at mine, they're not too bad, but of course they've got some dirt under them. So cleaning your fingernails is important, and it's something that everybody should do. But when you're biting your fingernails, especially if they're dirty, you're just biting into pure dirt. And then lastly, people who let dogs lick them. Think about where a tongue has been on a dog. I seen this story of a woman who let her dog, I seen this on TikTok. You can look it up, I'm not lying. This woman let her dog lick her arm, and she had an open sore on her arm, and her arm ended up getting infected by the licking from the dog, and she ended up having to have her arm amputated. And then somehow or another, she had both arms amputated and both legs amputated because the virus spread. And she still refuses to blame the dog for licking her and spreading the virus. She says that she still lets the dog lick on her. And she's sitting there as an amputee with no legs or arms. And it's because of the dog that licked her that caused her to get the infection. So, yeah, that's something that a lot of people do. Will let dogs lick them. I don't like when dogs lick me. I don't like it because you got to think about where that tongue has been. But I read that article and I was like, wow, there are a ton of things that we do without even realizing it every single day that's extremely unhygienic. And that was just a few of them. Folks, we have a great show ahead of you today. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. Stick with us. We will be right back.
You are listening to MediaLex Radio, WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
MediaLex only exists in our community because of the generosity of signal boosters like Callie Turk. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a signal booster, visit medialex.us/donate. From barbershops to galleries, gardens to banks, Project Ricochet meets people where they are. Since 2010, Project Ricochet has empowered youth through the Ricochet Squad, fought food insecurity with PR Health, PharmRx, and sparked healing through the Urban Art Collective. We're also confronting gambling harm and building generational wealth with Bet on You, Reclaim Your Power campaign, and Titan Financial Legacy. Together, we're stronger. To learn more, visit ProjectRicochet.org and follow Project Ricochet 2010. Project Ricochet, Stronger Together, Kentucky. WLX is grateful to Founders Circle members Griffin and Sarah Wiley Van Meter for their generous investment in our mission, a level of exceptional giving that reflects the spirit of our founder and community champion, Deborah Hensley.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. As a radio man, it's probably not surprising to you to know that I'm a very audible guy. I love sounds. I love the ability to be able to just listen to all of the wonderful sounds that are out there in the world. And on this show before, I did a whole segment where I talked about some of the most pleasant sounds in the world. And some of those things were like the pop of a cork or the sound of babies laughing. And there are a lot of sounds out there that are very pleasurable to our ears. And being on the radio, the one thing about radio that I love is that you have to use your ears. It's all about the sound. You create in your own head what you want to see. Yes, you can get on Facebook Live and you can see this show, but without doing so, most of the audience that listens to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks have no idea what I look like. They have no idea what the studio looks like. They have to imagine it in their heads. That's the beauty of radio. That's one of the most fascinating things about radio I think there is that you have to create the visual in your head by what you hear. And I'm a big sound guy. I love sound. And there are a lot of sounds out there that can stop us in our tracks. No explanation needed. We hear the sound, we instantly know what it is. And there's a lot of commonality in sounds that we all instantly recognize. So I started thinking about some of the most recognizable sounds in the world. Now, these particular sounds are not necessarily pleasant to your ears, but I have compiled a list here of some of the most recognizable sounds in the world. Now, some sounds cross borders, languages, and generations. You can hear these sounds from anywhere in the world, regardless of race, age, where you come from in the world. You're gonna know what this sound is. They spark memories. They trigger emotions. They tell us exactly what's happening before we even think about it. There are audio sounds that are woven into our daily lives. So today here on the show, I have compiled a list of some of the most recognizable sounds in the world. The ones that unite billions of people in just a single second. Why do they stick? What makes them unforgettable? Well, after I play each sound, I'll kind of tell you about why I feel like these sounds are some of the most recognizable sounds that exist out there. Now, I'm talking about some of the most recognizable sounds out there that exist. Now, when you hear these particular sounds, you are instantly going to know what the sound is, I bet you. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the sound, and you listeners listening at home, I want you to just play along. I want you to guess aloud what you think the sound is. And I bet you you're going to get however many I have on here, 12, 15 sounds. You're going to get a 15 out of 15. You'll probably get every single sound correct. So let's start with the first one. This is one of the most recognizable sounds in the world. Let's see if you can guess what it is. You know what that is. That is the sound of a telephone. That is a telephone ringing. And folks, I feel like that everybody instantly can tell what that is, what the sound of a phone sounds like. Before you even check the screen, we know that classic rings. For decades, landlines use mechanical bells, and they use that bell to create this ringing sound that everybody knows. And nowadays with cell phones, there's a ton of different rings out there. But everybody still knows that sound of a ringtone. That one right there. Even the kids that grew up with cell phones and not home phones, they're going to be able to hear that rotary sound of a phone and that ringing and know that that is from a phone. One of the most recognizable sounds in the world. Okay, what about this one? Do you know what this sound is? I bet you do. I bet you know what that sound is. That is the sound of a busy signal for a phone. And if you have ever tried to call somebody and they've got the receiver off of the hook or they're on the line with somebody else, you hear that tone. Okay, what about this one right here? Now, you're only going to know this if you own an iPhone. This is the sound of a text message for an iPhone. And those of you who have Androids, you're not going to know this tone because there's only two types of people in the world, those who have iPhones and those who don't. But if you have an iPhone, you are instantly going to recognize that sound. Okay, here is another very recognizable sound that everybody will recognize. That, folks, is the sound of an ambulance driving by. I was hit one time by an ambulance, destroyed my BMW. The light was green, I went through it, and then before you know it, I was getting smashed in the side by an ambulance. So hearing that sound is a little triggering for me. But that is the sound of an ambulance. When you see that, you instantly start to get anxious because you know you got to pull off the road. It's really nerve-wracking when it's a crowded street and you hear an ambulance coming down the road and you got to get over and there's no room to get over and everybody is pulling up on sidewalks, pulling into the yard just to pull over for the ambulance. And it's very nerve-wracking. Now, a lot of people might have guessed, oh, that's the sound of a police siren. Well, close. Not really. Actually, police sirens and ambulance sirens sound very similar. But police sirens are often faster and sharper than an ambulance. Different regions, they use different patterns. Some use wails, some use yelps. But they're just a little sharper and a little faster. So yes, I did give away the answer to this one. But this is the sound of a police siren, which is also one of the most recognizable sounds in the world. It's all fun and games until the blue lights come on. Now this sound might be triggering for some because, you know, life could be over when you hear this sound behind you. You're busted. Of course, whenever I hear this sound, I think instantly, oh gosh, I'm getting my 50th ticket. I've got so many speeding tickets. I really hate it when people run a background check on me because I seem to be like, I don't know, just a criminal because my background check is like 15 pages long, but they're all speeding tickets. No other charges other than the speeding tickets on my background check. So whenever I hear those sirens, I'm like, oh gosh. All right, we're talking about some of the most recognizable sounds in the entire world. These are sounds that I feel like everybody can guess. Now here is another one. Let's see if you can guess what this sound is. That is the sound of a smoke detector, folks. The sound of a smoke detector, that is what you hear when you're cooking your pizza rolls too long in the oven. You hear the sound of a smoke detector. Get out, stay out. Get out of the house if you hear this thing going, especially in the middle of the night. I've never had one go off on me in the middle of the night. That would be crazy. I've had them go off in hotels, and I've had them go off when I'm cooking. But having those things are very important. If you don't have a smoke detector, get one. Make sure the batteries are checked. Some of the biggest causes for house fires is not replacing the battery in your smoke detector. All right, here is another very recognizable sound that I'm sure most people will be able to guess. That is the sound of a car alarm. A lot of people like to press this button when they maybe lose their car in a parking garage. A lot of people hear this sound when somebody bumps into a car and the car alarm goes off. Sometimes the car alarm goes off when people open the door and the door has the alarm set. Whenever I hear this sound, I also think of the scene in Breaking Bad when Hank is getting attacked by these mob people and he gets in this shootout in a parking lot and the scene ends with just this sound and it's very dramatic. Thank God for car alarms, though. I mean, how else are you going to be able to find your car in a very crowded parking garage or a very crowded parking lot? Sometimes it's easy to forget where you park, so that car alarm really kind of helps you get notified of where your car is. All right, here is another recognizable sound that most people will be able to recognize. We're talking about the most recognizable sounds in the world. Here's the next one. Hearing that sound lets you know you've only got a few seconds to hurry up and get across the track before the train comes. I'm kidding. Don't do that. You hear that train sound, it's a good idea to stop. I live next to a train track. A lot of people probably find that sound annoying. I kind of find it peaceful because it's kind of a sound in the distance. It's not like right in my ear. It's not right in my face. So whenever I hear this sound, it's kind of peaceful. Kind of peaceful. But that is the sound of a train track. Most people that grew up next to a train track, they could instantly tell you where the sound is coming from. Now, a train horn is long, it's powerful, it's echoing, and it can be heard for miles. Miles. Because I don't live right next to a train track. I say right next to one, but not really. At least a mile is how far my house is from the actual train track. And I can still hear the train horn. Still hear the train horn. And especially the later it is, the more likely it is I can hear the train horn go off. Because it's quieter outside, things are calm, and that train horn in the background is very faint. But it's amazing how far that thing travels. And they do that intentionally. They do make the train horn intentionally loud so people can be notified that a train is coming. Because, folks, if you get hit by a train, things ain't going to end up good for you. I remember one time after a church service, our church was next to a train, and one of our church members tried to run the train. She tried to run it, and she ended up getting hit by the train. She survived without a scratch, I might add. But God had to be with her for that, because how else do you escape a car accident of getting hit by a train and walking out of it? So many people pass away from things like this. Now, this next sound is only going to be recognizable to you if you've done this certain event. Take a listen. Do you recognize that? That was the sound of the fasten your seatbelt button for an airplane. Now, when I hear that, you talk about my anxiety going up, because that means we're getting ready to rock and roll on that airplane. When you hear that little ding dong, when you hear that go off, that means get back to your seat and buckle up. Get back to your seat and buckle up, because when you hear that, that means that there's getting ready to be a little rockiness on the plane. Now, some of you who haven't flown, you probably had no idea what that sound is, but that's what it sounds like. A lot of people have flown. So when you hear that, you can be like, oh, that's from an airplane. I know where that's from. All right, here is another one. If you guessed cash register, ching, ching, you are correct. That is the metallic ring of success. It's the sound of a transaction being completed. Why is it recognizable, though? Well, it's so recognizable because it's heard a lot in movies, TV, and advertising. And listen, even though it's kind of old school, cash registers don't make that sound much anymore. Most still do. The sound of a ka-ching ching, cha-ching ching ching ching. The sound of a cash register. Very recognizable. All right, here is another recognizable sound that I'm sure a lot of you guys will recognize. If you guessed typing on a old school typewriter, that would be correct, folks. It's the rhythmic clack and that sharp ding at the end of a line right there. What makes it recognizable? Well, I would say it's its mechanical texture. Each keystroke has weight and personality. It's writing you can hear, honestly. This is the sound of somebody writing. I love the sound of an old school typewriter. You know, computer keyboards have a different sound. It's a different sound than what a typewriter does. Typewriters, again, is just something I find soothing. You know, good work is being made right there when you hear the sound of a typewriter. Okay, and here is another very recognizable sound, and I said that babies, when they laugh, that's one of the most enjoyable sounds in the world. But, of course, they could also make some of the most annoying sounds in the world, too, and this is one of them. Woo! The screeching of a baby cry, very recognizable. Everybody knows that sound. We were talking about flying a while ago. If you've ever been on an airplane, this is the worst place to hear that sound because it just echoes in that little tube of an airplane. All right, here is another very recognizable sound that everybody will know, and it's something that everybody does. That is the sound, folks, of a sneeze. I guarantee that you could guess it. Okay, what about this bodily function right here? Can you tell what this is? That's if you guess coughing, you would be guessing correctly. The sound of somebody coughing. Now that just kind of triggers COVID-19 days. But anyway, talking about some of the most recognizable sounds in the world, we just have one more. And this is a very recognizable sound because it is man's best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, take a listen. You know that sound? If you heard that sound, you're going to say, boy, somebody's dog is barking. You would know what this is when you heard it. You wouldn't have to second guess it. You wouldn't have to listen for a long time to figure out what that sound is. You would instantly be able to recognize that is a barking dog. So just to review here, some of the most recognizable sounds in the world: a phone ringing, a busy tone, an iPhone notification, an ambulance siren, a police siren, a smoke alarm, a car alarm, a train horn, an airplane seatbelt ding, the cash register, typewriter, baby crying, a sneeze, a cough, and a barking dog. Some of the most recognizable sounds in the world. I thought that was a little fun segment to have for the listeners at home. All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break. Stick with us. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Media Lex Radio, WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
You are listening to WLXU 93.9 FM, broadcasting from the James A. and Martha R. Brown Digital Studios of MediaLex.
Nilivyo hapa naongea mtangazaji wa kipindi Proudly African, na nilikuwa nataka kuwaalika msikilize kipindi changu Proudly African tunapoongelea vizuri vya Afrika kila siku ya Jumamosi saa 7 kamili kwenye MediaLex Radio WLXU mstari wa 93.9 FM Lexington, Kentucky.
MediaLex has the support of VisitLex, sharing ways to experience Lexington, Kentucky this winter. 8 distilleries are located within a mile of downtown, and 11 more are within a 45-minute drive alongside craft breweries and cideries on the Brewgrass Trail. Cozy restaurants with warm fireplaces and creative dishes offer seasonal comfort throughout the city. Just outside downtown, guided horse farm tours provide a behind-the-scenes look at Kentucky's iconic horse country during foaling season. Information about events, attractions, and experiences in Lexington is available at visitlex.com and on social media at VisitLex.
MediaLex only exists in our community because the generosity of signal boosters like Harry Richard. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a signal booster, visit medialex.us/donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. What you're hearing in the background is the theme music to the hit medical drama Grey's Anatomy. And I bring it up, folks, because one of its biggest stars has unfortunately passed away. Eric Dane dies at the age of 52. He was the actor who steamed up primetime TV on Grey's Anatomy at the height of the show's popularity. He was known as Dr. McSteamy. Everybody remembers him coming out with nothing but a towel on. And when he did that, women all across the world fell in love with Dr. Mark Sloan, a.k.a. Dr. McSteamy. Eric Dane, he announced that he was living with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, better known as ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, back in 2025. Following his diagnosis, he became a passionate advocate for awareness and research, determined to make a difference for others facing the same fight. What a terrible disease to catch. ALS breaks down your body slowly. It affects your speech. It affects your movements. And for this to happen to somebody like Eric Dane, somebody who was known for just his health, looking strong at all times, and to be broken down by this disease, it was really sad. And it just goes to show, folks, that this disease knows no fame, knows no face, knows no body type. It could hit anybody. Eric Dane, he enjoyed a robust TV and film career that began in the early 1990s. He had bit parts in popular series including The Wonder Years, Roseanne, and Saved by the Bell. He also played a character on Charm back in 2003 before taking over the smoldering role of Dr. Mark Sloan on Grey's Anatomy. And then, as of late, he had films that included things like X-Men: The Last Stand, Marley and Me, and was also a big character on the show Euphoria. When Eric Dane first announced his diagnosis back in April of 2025. He worked hard to advocate for further assistance for those with the research of this disease. And in June, during his first television interview since revealing his diagnosis, he opened up about some of the symptoms that led to the discovery of his diagnosis. And he said it all started with some weakness in his right hand. That's scary, folks. When you hear about Michael J. Fox, when he first got Parkinson's disease, which has completely ravished his body at this point. But when he first talks about getting that disease, he said that the first symptom that he had was a twitch in his pinky finger after a night of drinking. And then here Eric Dane is, after getting this disease, he told everybody that the first symptom that he noticed was some weakness in his right hand. And then it just spiraled down from there. There is still currently no known cure for this disease, which makes it even sadder. Eric Dane, he shared teen daughters Billy and Georgia with actress Rebecca Gayheart. And what's interesting about that is Rebecca, his wife, is from my hometown, Knott County. And I remember when those two got together, Knott County went crazy over it because he was the big famous doctor from Grey's Anatomy. And she filed for divorce before he was diagnosed. And then after his diagnosis, she decided to call off the divorce and remain married to him. Now, whether or not they remained living together and remained as a married couple under one roof, I don't know their personal life. But the fact that she did stay with him, called off the divorce, and then helped him during a time of sickness speaks a lot of volumes about her character. To death do you part. That is a vow that people take lightly a lot of the times. They like to just get married just to put it on Facebook. People like, and I know that sounds crazy, but people really do. Because when people get married, I mean, within 5 seconds, their Facebook status is changed. That last name is changed. That Facebook status is changed. And it's like, dang, man, enjoy the moment. Give Facebook a night off during the wedding night. So a lot of people, you got to think that you are actually saying vows in front of your family, in front of your church, and most importantly, in front of God. You are vowing to stay with this person until one of you die. That's a pretty big vow. That's why marriage is such a sacred bond. It's such an important thing to actually commit to, because the intention going into marriage is that you stay married forever. Now, what's interesting about Eric Dane's death is before he died, he actually recorded an interview, and it's now released on Netflix. And he said he didn't want this interview released until he was dead. And he said he wanted this to be a video that was played after his death. And I'm going to play you a clip from this interview that was on Netflix. And this is particularly talking about his relationship with his wife, Rebecca Gayheart, from Knott County, Kentucky. And he is talking about their love story, and he's talking about what she meant to him. But what's very sad about this, folks, is that, what's sad about this is that you can hear his speech declining so bad. And he's already at this point, this was his last interview he did, and his speech is already almost gone. And if you know him and you know what he sounded like before this interview, it makes this interview even more heartbreaking. But take a listen.
Still love each other deeply. I just think they don't want to live with each other. Well, there's a lot of love there. I'll never, I will have never, by the time anybody sees this, I've fallen in love with another woman as deeply as I fell in love with her. She's the mother of my children. And the whole way that thing came about, it was so organic and fortuitous. I met Rebecca, and I turned to her friend, and I said, I'm gonna marry that girl. How did you know? I have no idea. I have no idea how serious I was in that moment, but I said that. And her friend said, no way, she's never breaking up with her fiance. They're getting married, they've been together since they were 15. 4 years they're married.
Very sad. I mean, but very sweet. I mean, think about the opportunity that he got right there to leave a message from the grave. And the interviewer even asked him about that in the interview. He said, "What is this like for you right now? Is it weird?" He says, "No, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like I'm coming back to life just for an hour or two." And it kind of sort of is, because they had never seen the interview. They watched this just like the rest of the world did. And it's a message directly to his wife and his kids. And I don't know of anybody else who did a video like this and posted it for the world to see. There might have been other people, I'm sure there's been other people that have made videos only to be played after their death. And they put it in their will, and they wanted people to see it only after they have died. But what a cool thing to do. What a sweet thing to do, because your family is already in mourning, and sometimes the only thing that you want as a family member is to be able to see them one more time and be able to hear their voice one more time. And that's exactly what his kids and his daughters got. So my thoughts and prayers do go out to Eric Dane and his family. Very sad, 52 years old, folks. 52 years old. Be mindful of your health. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes it is what it is. You get these diseases, and that's sometimes just the hand that you're dealt in life. Folks, we are going to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week break, and the artist that I'm going to be playing is Three Doors Down. And the lead singer of Three Doors Down was diagnosed with stage 4 clear cell renal cell carcinoma, which is a type of kidney cancer that metastasized to his lungs. And he died in his sleep at the hospital in Mississippi back in early February of this year, and he was only 47 years old. I'm trying to think of his name because I love Three Doors Down, and it's killing me that I can't think of his name. I know his last name was Arnold, but this guy had such a beautiful, smooth voice, and it was such a loss to the music world. And yes, Three Doors Down, they stopped making music, but their music was so beautiful. And I loved listening to them when I was in high school. They were one of my favorite rock bands, and they really kind of put rock back in the mainstream of people listening on the radio and people buying rock CDs, because rock had kind of died off. And then Three Doors Down comes out, kind of makes it mainstream again, and that's why they are going to be Off the Cuff's Song of the Week break. And folks, this is Here Without You. And listen at what a voice on the lead singer who just recently passed. We'll be back after the song. Brad Arnold was his name. I couldn't think of it. It's Brad. Brad Arnold died at 47 years old. Such a loss to the music world and such a loss to the world in general. Ladies and gentlemen, today's national holiday is National Levi Strauss Day, and we celebrate it today because today would have been Levi Strauss's birthday, and he was born on February the 26th. Well, some of the most popular blue jeans in the world is Levi Strauss. That is actually where blue jeans come from. They come from the Levi Strauss company. There's a difference between jeans and there's a difference between pants. Now, a lot of companies that just made pants make blue jeans. Most stores, when you walk in, have blue jeans, but the first to ever do it was Levi Strauss and his company, the Levi Strauss Company. So today's national holiday is Levi Strauss Day. All right, folks, we still have one more segment to go. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Happy spooky season. Don't waste those rotting pumpkins and gourds. You can let them compost in your yard, or you can throw them in your gray yard waste containers. That's right. The city will take pumpkins and gourds, along with other yard waste like leaves and branches, and turn them into mulch. What a great way to recycle. If you want a full list of what is acceptable in your gray yard waste cart, visit lexingtonky.gov/waste.
VLX is grateful to Founder Circle member Tracy Whitley for their generous investment in our mission, a level of exceptional giving that reflects the spirit of our founder and community champion, Deborah Hensley.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. President Donald Trump delivered the first State of the Union address of his second term this past Tuesday night at the U.S. Capitol. Trump's speech clocked in at about an hour and 47 minutes, which is the longest State of the Union address in the history, beating out Bill Clinton, who had that record for years. But Donald Trump definitely talked for a long time, a whole lot about nothing. I watched the entire thing, and I still don't even realize, well, really what all he was saying. But there was a lot of drama at this State of the Union, as there always is when Trump is anywhere. There's always drama. There was some banter between him and a few of the Democratic politicians, especially a congresswoman who was screaming at him, telling him that he was unethical, etc., etc. One other Democrat was kicked out because he held up a sign in the crowd that said black people aren't apes. And that was very controversial because, remember, Trump posted a video or a picture of animals, and he put Barack and Michelle Obama's head on an ape, which is a very, very racist thing to do. And anybody who says that that's not racist, I don't know what you would call racism, but that was not an ethical thing for anybody to do, let alone a United States president. But the guy held up a sign. He's the guy who holds a cane. He has a cane, and I don't really know his name, but he was the one holding the sign, and he got kicked out. Now, of course, I can't play a lot of what I was wanting to play because we are running out of time, but I am going to play a few sound bites from the State of the Union given by President Trump on Tuesday night. Take a listen after I can get this song stopped, but these are just a few sound bites. I wanted to play more, but we're not going to have time to play much, but this is what I can play for you now. He also said one of these players from the hockey team he's going to give the Medal of Freedom to. let me stop it there for a second. When Trump said, this is my second term, should be my third, I don't get too bent out of shape over that like a lot of people would, because I know that presidents should only serve 2 terms, and I agree with that. That's in our Constitution. But sometimes I think Trump trolls a lot of people just to ruffle their feathers. So that's why I feel like he says things like, should have been my third. But I think that's just Trump being Trump.
Members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. First duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed.
He's talking about the Democrats not standing.
I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Not one voter ID. One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated, and their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it.
Now, I will say this. I am for IDing people before they vote. You need to, and I'm even for having 2 things of identification, because it's easy to fraudulently have an ID. So 2 forms of identification, whether that be a birth certificate or a social security card, I'm down for that. I don't see what the big issue is with that.
My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. There's no fun. The sick people. I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Sloman with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Okay, we'll stop it there because, folks, we really are out of time, and I don't have time to play much else other than that. But what a State of the Union it was. It was a very long State of the Union. Too long. But we usually have one a year, so we'll have one probably around this time next year. It's always interesting just to see the drama that unfolds, but it's very unfortunate, too, because of how divided that the nation is. I mean, I don't think Democrats stood up the entire night for anything. Even things they should have stood up for, they didn't. Even talking about certain people who lost their lives and they were getting honored with a standing ovation, the Democrats still didn't stand, and that's not right. Not right at all. All right, folks, if you liked what you heard today, you'll probably like our previous episodes. We archive them all on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me, the show host, on social media at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the king of radio, Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff. I'll catch you down the road.
You're cute.